Now, a second implication, right, another idea that flows from the fact that this law is divinely authored. So a second implication of divine authorship, according to Greenberg, is this connection between law and morality, so that in the biblical legal framework, every crime is also a sin. Every crime is also a sin. Law is the moral will of God, and nothing is beyond the moral will of God. So what's illegal is also immoral, and vice versa. What's immoral is also illegal. Law and morality are not separate, as we moderns tend to think they are and ought to be, right, in our society. Offenses against morality in the biblical world are also religious offenses. They're also sins because they are infractions of the divine will. So the fusion of morality and law, Greenberg argues, is the reason that biblical law not only expresses but legislates a concern for the unfortunate members of society, for example, orphans, strangers, widows, as well as respect for the aged. From the priestly source, this is Leviticus 19, verse 32, we read, "You shall rise before the aged and show deference to the old. You shall fear your God, I am the Lord." Again, that refrain always has to come with this kind of a statement. The extra-biblical codes certainly exhibit concern for the rights of the poor. This is very important, particularly in their prologues. You read some of these prologues. You know, my desire was to help the orphans, the strangers, and so on. But when you look at the content of the laws, as in our society, they don't legislate charity. They don't legislate compassion. It's likely that these were considered acts of, who knows, personal conscience, religious conviction, something that was between the individual and society and their God. I don't know, but they were outside the domain and jurisdiction of the court. That doesn't mean that charity and compassion were not present in other ancient Near Eastern cultures. The point is that law is not understood as being the appropriate vehicle for the expression of those values. There were other sorts of texts that might do those sorts of things and urge people to charity and compassion, but law, the legislation, is not understood to be the appropriate vehicle for the expression of those values. So again, I'm not trying to say that ancient Near Eastern society everybody was mean. I'm trying to say that the law, because of its divine authorship, suddenly takes on a scope, a holistic scope, and a fusion of law and morality that are kept separate in other cultures and very much in our own, right? So the two, however, are combined, and law is understood to be the appropriate vehicle to legislate compassion, for example. So in Leviticus 19:9, verse 10, legislating charity, "When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap all the way to the edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not pick your vineyard bare, or gather the fallen fruit of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. I, the Lord, am your God." Again, from the Holiness Code, Leviticus 19:14, "You shall not insult the deaf, or place a stumbling block before the blind. You shall fear your God, I am the Lord." Again, always has to back it up because this is not something the courts can back up, right? This is a question of your morality. Or Leviticus 20, verse 18, "Love your fellow as yourself, I am the Lord." Leviticus 19, verses 33 to 34, "When a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I, the Lord, am your God." Deuteronomy 22:6. "If along the road you chance upon a bird's nest, in any tree or on the ground, with fledglings or eggs, and the mother sitting over the fledglings or on the eggs, do not take the mother together with her young. Let the mother go, and take only the young, in order that you may fare well and have a long life," meaning God will reward you. So again, this is enforceable by God.